Ghana, Africa's first country to take off its colonial shackles. 6 decades later, and it remains one of the fastest growing economies on the continent. My name is Yelang Pujinka. Join me as we explore the Ghanaian business landscape on this season of What is Access Africa Business in the City.
Infrastructure development in Ghana has led to a boom in the retail sector. At the helm of that boom is clothing giant Mr. Price. One of the reasons Mr. Price over a decade has recorded such success has been the fact that their business model is a cash-based one. We speak to Stuart Bird, the group CEO, about some of these successes, and we do touch on some of the challenges.
You know, the most important thing is to understand the customer, and will your offer resonate with them or not? We did our homework, and there appeared to be an opportunity, and as a consequence we then put in our first store into Accra Mall. Obviously things don't always go exactly according to plan because you've got a lot of lessons to learn as you go into a new market, and the trick is to be as nimble as possible. And I guess in terms of how we approached it, it certainly worked out to be a very good market for us. There have been difficulties in the more recent past, a lot of that economic, where the consumer has experienced a lot of inflation, and unfortunately we've also had to pass that inflation on. It's still a very good place to do business. Ghana is one of the easier countries to do business in. It's not that difficult to set up a company there. It's relatively easy to run a company there. Everything else works pretty well. In terms of logistics, we haven't had any major difficulties. And when you also talk about some of the authorities, for example, customs and getting through the port, where in some markets that come along with a whole lot of difficulties, Ghana is relatively straightforward. We just try to make sure that we remain who we are and stay in touch with the consumer who's on the ground, and not try and be something that we aren't.
From opening new points of investment to the expansion of the retail sector, these are all connected to the success of the continent. We take a look at another aspect that is essential to African growth, namely the supply of new sources of electricity. Finance lies at the heart of any large-scale project. Cash flow and capital are essential to bringing to life any large-scale infrastructure. One man who knows all about the business of finance is Mike Peo.
We're involved in investing in very big-scale infrastructure, energy and telecommunication projects. So that ranges from large-scale toll roads through to power producers, across to things like satellites. We funded a satellite unique to sort of Africa. Ghana has been a very exciting country. I think the discovery of gas and oil propelled the economy fairly significantly. So over the last 5 years now, we have funded 3 large-scale projects in Ghana. One, a fairly significant water desalination project to take potable water to the population, and 2 combined cycle power projects. The 2 combined projects will probably contribute 500 megawatts to Ghana. In a country that's massively energy constrained, that powers up probably 2 million households with electricity. So fairly significant projects. In funding big-scale infrastructure projects, the first issues go to policy commitment. We need countries where the government is fully committed to developing infrastructure, to regulating in such a way that the private sector can participate in the projects. The other nice thing about infrastructure projects is we do invest over a very long period of time, but to do that, a lot of conditions need to be right, and Ghana has been one of the success stories for us. We like to think we were probably the first bank to do a project financing of infrastructure on the continent, and Ghana really became the first country in which we've been able to do really successive projects. So not only for my business, but for other businesses within the bank. We are very involved in the global trade finance sector. We do a huge number of deals in the what we call the export credit financing area, and all of those have been particularly successful in Ghana. The commitment of the government, I guess, has at least ensured that all these projects are still sustainable, still financially viable, and so for us it's been a very good destination to be a long-term financier into. I think we're very optimistic. We do see a lot of the growth coming from the rest of the continent. The Nedbank Group is predominantly a South African banking group, but we have very big aspirations to be the best bank in Africa.
A reliable electricity supply is a key ingredient in the recipe for business success. SenPower, Ghana's first licensed IPP, has been at the forefront of ensuring that Ghana's electricity challenges are a thing of the past. Mr. Saki, how was the idea of a gas turbine conceived?
Ghana historically has been the country that has been using hydrothermal power plants. So the first thermal plants, the Kosovo hydropower dam, it has a long history from the 1915, 1914, were discussions about that even before Ghana became an independent country. So when Ghana got independent, that was one of the major infrastructure projects that our president undertook to develop. And what happened was it had a huge capacity at that time. It was built with about 600 megawatts, actually 588 megawatts, when the demand in the country was a little around 100 megawatts. So there was a huge oversupply. But that was because it was planned to harness and assist the development of the country.
According to the World Bank 2016 Ease of Doing Business report, Ghana has made some significant progress when it comes to the ease of doing business in this country. Let's speak to Ashley Ricks and find out more. Ashley, how easy is it to do business in Ghana?
Well, I mean, I've been in Ghana now for close to almost 10 years. I think Ghana is one of the, you've got Accra, which is actually the fastest growing city in Africa. I'm not sure how many people actually are aware of that, but it's currently growing at just under 10% per annum. So really thriving sort of hub. So many opportunities that you have here. It's got a great GDP growth rate. We estimate currently, last year it was sitting about 3.5%, but they're estimating over the next 3 years it could even go to about 6.5% GDP growth rate. So many opportunities in different sectors, whether it's the mining, petroleum, agriculture, which is massive in Ghana, tourism opportunities, beautiful country. The landscape is there, just needs those investors to come in and be able to utilize the resources that are there and invest in it. The trade relations between Ghana and South Africa has been going on for a number of years. We have very close ties. I think a lot of the trade, and still to this day, is actually coming from South Africa to Ghana. I mean, if you just have a look at the exports and imports and the trade imbalance between South Africa and Ghana, you'll see there's a huge amount of trade that's coming from South Africa to Ghana and very little that's actually going down. But these are all things that we are trying to focus on, the government's even trying to focus on, trying to encourage South African companies or any companies, even local companies, to set up manufacturing concerns. The government has this new thing now of one factory, one district. So that is very high on the agenda to try and get their exports going. In Ghana, you also got the Ghana Free Zones Board, which basically encourages foreign investors to come in, set up, export 70% of what you manufacture, and you can get a 10-year tax holiday. I think we see a very positive outlook on the power supply. In order for this to have a positive effect on investment, it needs to be consistent for a number of years, so people can actually see. Because it's one thing to say, but it's the other thing to actually see it actually happen. So I think it's going to take some time, another year or 2 years, for Ghana to actually show, yes, we can supply constant power, for the bigger manufacturing companies to feel confident that they actually come and put that investment in Ghana and come and set up here.
There is no doubt that the dream of an interconnected Africa is soon to be realized, with countries such as South Africa and Ghana focused on economic growth and development. From me, Yelang Prujinka, stay with us as we continue to access Africa.